Clubhouse.
Welcome to Decorating the Set from Hollywood to your home with your hosts, Beth Kushnick and Caroline Daly.
Welcome to Decorating the Set from Hollywood to your home. This is Caroline. Hey, Beth.
Hi, Caroline. I'm so excited to talk about today's special episode and our guest for the show. It's all things related to the film Rare Objects.
This week's episode is a long time coming. Over a year ago, you worked on the movie, and it's finally getting to come out. So tell us a little bit about Rare Objects.
Well, it's based on a 2016 book written by Kathleen Tesoro. It tells the story of a young woman with a traumatic past who seeks to rebuild her life when she begins working in an antique store. And Katie Holmes rewrote the script, put it in contemporary times in New York, and it stars both Alan Cumming and Katie Holmes, and it's going to be released in theaters and on demand April 14th.
So Rare Objects was a small indie film, and I know that when you and I talk, we mostly talk about your TV series or a major motion picture. So what is the difference between working on a smaller indie film?
It was really a great opportunity for me to go back to my roots and start again on a small indie movie. And I'd say the most predominant thing about that is everyone seems to really be a family. You know, it's sort of like, okay, we're going to put on a show. And I think what happens is everybody puts forth their best effort and tries to bring whatever they can to the project. I was contacted to do this project by the production designer, Michael Fitzgerald, and it's a really special project for me because it sort of ended up being a crossover and a 6 degrees of separation of all my vendors, my closest vendors, my various worlds kind of collided for the couple of months that we put the film together.
So this week's guest is one of your longtime collaborators, Jake Baer, the CEO of Newel Props. And you worked with Jake and Newel on Rare Objects, but I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk about like a couple of different other projects that you guys worked on as well. Why were they the right prop house for this project?
Well, when I read the script and saw what this film was really about and knowing the budget of a small indie film, there was nowhere else that I thought I could possibly pull this off other than Newel. And I proposed to Jake a kind of unusual situation where almost everything in the sets, especially the large furniture items and architectural pieces, would come from Newel. And it would really be an opportunity to associate Newel with even the concept of rare objects. You know, it's such a perfect description for what I do. And on this film in particular, each one of the rare objects was selected and curated, and it's such a interesting mix. You know, they come from various periods and styles, and you'll see if you watch the movie that they're very realistic in thinking that Alan Cumming's character, who owns the store, the antique store, puts together all these various pieces to make a really eclectic space and a shop that's filled with rare objects to the point where anyone could go in and seek something really special and find it.
I can imagine a film called Rare Objects must just be like a dream for a set decorator. How did you select each individual one? Like, did you kind of think of these backstories and whatnot? And did you select like a hero object?
Well, I started by speaking with Jake at Newel, and we decided we were going to do this through them. And I will say that I got to know the Newel website. Like, I feel uniquely qualified to represent Newel now. I spent hours curating items and printed out selections that I shared with the production designer. Then we culled through everything that I printed and made separate piles. And we really took each item like a puzzle piece. And we were actually working in this space, which was an empty store in downtown Manhattan. So it really evolved organically, to have the photographs of everything from the website and be in the space. It literally was our office and art department up until the final second that we were going to shoot there. So it really came together. Then we added small items from John Koch. We added beautiful pieces of jewelry that we were allowed to borrow from Kentshire Galleries. We added flower arrangements from Seasons. Across the street, there was an empty storefront that we actually covered in A.J. Stetson's photography. All things that we have talked about on previous episodes of decorating the set. My whole world came together on Rare Objects.
It feels like it's just like layers of Beth, like just layering you on there. I love that so much. It must be so fascinating for you to see yourself on screen like that. Like your relationships with people, they're all like layered on there right in front of you. Do you have any like behind the scenes stories you can share with us?
Well, I'm happy to say that the author, Kathleen Tessero, came to the set and she was really blown away. And she said she couldn't have selected more perfect items when she was writing the novel. So that was really great. She actually has a cameo in the movie as she's a customer in the store. The interesting thing about when you're working on a low budget indie feature is you sort of come out of your usual, or at least I do, position. And it was a weird time on this job, COVID and such. And we did borrow these beautiful jewelry, for close-ups, really interesting pieces from Kentshire Galleries. And I ended up being the person to be responsible for the hundreds of thousands of dollars in jewelry and transport them.
Oh, my Lord.
So myself and my partner in crime, who did the driving, we left the location and went up to where we were picking up the jewelry. And like, it was like an event. And I was tasked with being responsible and having that purse on my wrist, like attached to my person for fear that, something was going to happen. Of course, we kept the jewelry safe while we were shooting, and then it was my task to return it. Even now, all these years in the business later, I would say I had an opportunity to do things in a behind the scenes kind of way that I might not necessarily have had on a regular TV show or big feature film. And it adds to the joy of seeing the project complete. In the trailer, there's a line by one of the characters' moms, and she talks about just putting one foot in front of another. And I didn't even realize that was in the script until I saw the trailer. And that speaks to me so much. It's, something I say all the time about my own self and my life. And I just feel like there's a very personal connection to the work.
That's the word that came to mind as you're talking. I'm like thinking like, wow, you have such a connection to all of these things.
I think it'll show. I'm really proud of the work that we did.
What an amazing culmination of all these relationships you have with all these different vendors and just your experiences. And it sounds like even the script itself was speaking to you. That's remarkable. How
it just
like
worked
fulfilling.
out, It just worked out that I could bring everyone together. Even looking at this storefront across the street that was just empty and had graffiti all over it. And, obviously we were going to see it in the film and what could go in there. And, all of a sudden light bulbs, E.J. Stetson's photography and the Masked project. And I've got to say it was a very meant to be situation. Everything that we unpacked from John Koch, enhanced everything from Newel. It really all came together.
Well, and speaking of, this episode is actually coming out during Rare Objects Premiere Week, which is like, again, just kismet here. When this episode comes out, you will have already attended the Rare Objects premiere screening at the 92nd Street Y. And tomorrow there's an event at Newel Props. And as our listeners are downloading this episode, maybe even on the way to see Rare Objects on Friday, what's one thing that you want them to know when they're seeing the film? What do you want them to take away from it?
Well, certainly there are a lot of possibilities. You can be a fan of Katie Holmes, who's a brilliant director, and a fan of Alan Cumming, and a fan of the novel itself, now updated and set in New York in contemporary times. It's a really powerful story, and I think seeing everything come together, the music, the visuals, the wardrobe, you'll see how much effort and real connection everyone had in the making of this movie.
And now our interview with Jake Baer, the Chief Executive Officer of Newel Props. Listeners, joining us today is one of Beth's longtime collaborators, Jake Baer, the Chief Executive Officer of Newel Props. Jake, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Jake, we're so happy you're here with us to talk about the history of Newel and how the company has developed to be such a huge part of the film and television industry in New York. Jake, tell us a little bit more about the history of Newel.
Yeah, sure. Well, Newel was, I'm actually the fourth generation here at Newel. Newel was originally founded by my great-grandfather, Meyer Newman, in 1939. Newel originally started out as a Broadway prop house. So we were doing My Fair Lady. All the best Broadway shows we all had a big part in it. So there's always been just this entertainment part of our DNA, as you would say.
That's great.
Over the years, a lot of these pieces of inventory that my great-grandfather was bringing over from Europe to do these, beautiful sets became antiques. This was during the, when he was started the business, it was really during like the Great Depression. And so we were bringing over, containers and containers over furniture to help these Broadway shows. And through, I guess, my father, who, was pretty much my role model, my superhero in so many different ways, he appointed me CEO about 6 years ago. And it's really been, a tremendous honor. I started working as a carpenter. I pretty much have learned, it was pretty much my only job was working at Newel. But I really worked at everybody's. I had different roles where I spent 4 years working under a master carpenter. I learned how to wrap up all the boxes. I was, helping, deliver with all the Teamsters and doing all of, really kind of
trial by fire.
Exactly. Doing all the bookkeeping, really every role, which, was really important because, you have to learn all aspects of any business that you run. And it's really been, instrumental. About 6 years ago, when I became CEO, I decided that I actually wanted to split the business. The television and movie industry has just always been something I'm enamored with. Just watching films, I watch it differently because I just, see what these incredible, set decorators do. And I really wanted to support them and help them. And so I split up the business. I created a whole nother rental website. We only used to really have a Newel.com website, and I created Newel Props. And, that was, I think, really instrumental into Newel's focus. It really kind of gave us, our true identity back, which was really, how can we cater and how can we support all these incredible set decorators and set designers that we work with. It's just so cool seeing the pieces in incredible films and TV shows. Even if it's not my stuff, just seeing how these places get designed and created, it enamors me. And I would say it, I still to this day don't understand how you all do it, And so it's
with a lot of help from Newel.
Well, we do our best for sure. And, it's really one of those types of industries where people, we really all depend on each other. It takes a lot of great communication. It takes a lot of flexibility and a lot of creativity. And, we want to, support and do that. And I think once we started Newel Props, it really gave us the branding, the marketing freedom, and just how we can separate the business. How I look at it is we have one inventory and we have two different outlets as we still sell antiques and contemporary designs and furniture. And then, we have our other side where, we fully can just have, for our rental clients. And so it's been just a complete honor, I would say, just being the fourth generation of this company and being able to evolve this business and to, really be able to work with just such incredible people, my staff included. They're the best. So I'm really lucky to have them.
Jake, I'm super glad that you brought up relationships because that's something that Beth has spoken to our listeners a ton about, the importance of the relationships within her business to be able to get these really wonderfully done sets. So take me back in time a little bit, you guys, both you and Beth. Please tell me a little bit about how did you guys meet each other and what your working relationship has been like?
Well, I will tell you that my history in the business and with Newel was really solidified in 1990 on the movie Reversal of Fortune, because that script, and as I've told everyone over and over again, of course, we all lead with the script. That script to date, with the exception of a film that we just recently worked on, was probably my most Newel-centric job that I had ever had. We created this level of wealth and this incredible life, both representing Rhode Island and Manhattan, and so much of our work, myself and the production designer, started just literally by walking the floors of Newel with Jake's dad. That's how it's done. I think more at Newel than many other prop houses, because you have an opportunity to literally walk floors and aisles and see everything so up close, whether it was their space in Manhattan that actually was 3 blocks away from where I grew up. So I was constantly starting my day there in the film business because it was a neighborhood I was used to being in, to where they are now. They have everything laid out so well that you can just go there and start to be inspired even before you have a specific script. And many times I've said, I just got to use that piece somewhere.
Yeah. I would say that that's what we try to do here at Newel. As one of our core values, it's about inspiring people, and it's really about seeing beautiful pieces. We pride ourselves on our quality, and we pride ourselves on being very eclectic and having all different ranges and styles, which obviously fits the entertainment world really well because we can go to any period and set. And we definitely do our best to organize the warehouse as best as we can. It's a big job when we have close to around 120,000 square feet of warehouse space. We just acquired another 10,000 more square feet. But it's really important that when people walk around the showroom, they're just like, wow, I've never seen anything like it. I try to make it feel like the Paris flea market. I think we're more organized than the Paris flea market, but that's really kind of, what we're all about, and I think just getting more furniture and art and everything under the sun, that's my goal because, I really look at all the different sets. I just always want to be eclectic. Like I always want to go after different styles and periods and categories and really be like, wow, I can rival any other dealer that has that, one style. And I try to have it all in one shop.
And the depth of collections is so intense at Newel in the days, obviously, before COVID, where we used to do so much work in the early days in person, in the days of walking around with your Polaroid camera, before cell phones and even before beepers and pagers. And the way I'm dating myself, I can tell you that going to Newel was one of the places where I could really work and collaborate with a production designer, whether it was a production designer from Los Angeles, from out of town, from Europe, from here. It was a place to just take your breath away. The ability that a decorator has at Newel to deal with all the categories that I talk to everybody about, from the upholstered pieces of furniture and the case goods, the smalls and all the character-driven top layer, and then a massive amount of lighting. I mean, just pieces that you dream about, or I dream about as a set decorator, Murano glass sconces and, all the things that you just, as Jake is saying, I mean, you feel like you're in the flea market in Paris, but on every level. And then for me, throughout my career, I've always, if I'm ever going to use an Easter egg and repeat a piece, I've done that because it's come from Newel. In Reversal of Fortune, in the bedroom that we dressed for Klaus and Sonny von Bülow, I used these beautiful sculptures that were called the Four Seasons, and they were busts, incredibly beautiful, white porcelain. And even later on, after that film, two of them bit the dust, not on one of my jobs, but on another job. And I could never use the four of them again, but I used the two of them that were left together on another job, because that was like my signature Newel piece.
I think when you can use a quality piece, like it really shows well on the camera. Like you can really tell, like, it really makes a huge difference. And, we've had pieces that have rented, over and over again since, my great grandfather, and they've been around into so many films. Like we have these tufted sofas that have probably been in close to 20 films altogether, TV shows, and it's crazy, just thinking about like these sofas are kind of like movie stars in a way. They
are, and they work for all different genres and all different styles, and it's also kind of what I tell people, in their own homes, a concept of high-low. With a bed from Newel, like in Reversal of Fortune, I didn't have to spend a lot of money on the linens, because the bed was so beautiful and so captivating. So when you start with these pieces that have this history and the craftsmanship in them, it really sets the stage for a really balanced, beautiful set.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I look at it all the time. Every film I look at, I'm just like always looking at the sets. I think that's just a habit I have now. And when I see some pieces, and there's sometimes where I get envious when I look at the TV screen, because I'm just like, well, where did these pieces come from? Like, where can I get them? So it's a passion, I think, just to be able to explore and experience all these different styles and periods, and really to just have it all under one roof and get to walk around, kind of the racks all day. It's something I take a lot of pride in, and it's just really cool.
Jake, how is it different, say, for instance, when a production designer or a set decorator comes to Newel, or let's say, in contrast, an interior designer who's shopping for a client and it's pieces that you're going to sell instead of rent?
What has always admired me, about working with set designers is that they're so cool under pressure. There are times where, there's deadlines, there's things are definitely a little bit more instant, because there's some levels of time constraints, but everybody's really nice. I've seen people in just crazy, situations, and everybody acts extremely well under pressure, which is always something I've respected. With interior designers, it's much of the same, though. It's like, my whole goal in life is just to find things that are just going to work, you know? Like, I want people to be happy with every purchase that they have. I want people to be happy with every rental that they have. I think it's just about asking the right questions. Sometimes with sales, it's a little bit difficult because, like, maybe their clients are a little bit more difficult, but, you know, it's at the same time, you could be probably dealing with a producer that's not easy to work with as well. So it's like, you know,
it's true. But a lot of producers have been intimidated, I think, by Newel, you know, just because obviously when we're working in film and TV, we give a deposit, you know, an insurance certificate, and we work with certain financial parameters, and you make the rentals possible and feasible financially. But producers and production managers are, you know, always thinking, oh my God, it's from Newel. And I assure them that's what my incredible crew is used to dealing with pieces from Newel. And, you know, there are always extra precautions taken, extra furniture blankets, and things are always almost custom wrapped and packed for, you know, keeping these incredible antiques in good shape.
I think it's just, you know, the nature of the beast, you know, it's like you need these quality items, you know, to look good on us, you know, to be on set, and, you know, they have to be handled with care. That's always something I've always had as my number one priority, is just always making sure, like, the relationships are positive and good. It's never easy to, you know, have a piece break, but in all honesty, it's not one of our biggest issues in life, you know, like, we really don't have too many breaks. I think people do have this level of understanding with, you know, these are nicer pieces that need to be handled with care. You know, we obviously put a tremendous amount of effort and time into wrapping them ourselves, you know, before they go out. And, you know, I have the best crew in the world. Like, I've honestly, the crew members that I, you know, learned everything from, as far as just wrapping things up and, you know, putting these items on the Teamsters trucks and doing all the things.
And all of the Teamsters have a great understanding in New York and an affinity. A lot of the Teamsters appreciate the antiques coming from Newel just as much as I do. You know,
generations.
They know the industry.
You know, a lot of, you know, the Teamsters are family run things, and, you know, we're a family business too, and we've been working with them for generations, you know, so I think there's always just been this understanding with the industry that, you know, these are pieces that just need to be handled with care. And I think, you know, when I created Newel Props, I really wanted it to, you know, we have such a high-end luxury sales side. And, you know, I just felt like there were some items that, you know, I think there was just a level of marketing and just understanding that I wanted people to understand that Newel was not just super, super high-end. Like, we had many items, like those tufted couches, like, they can be rented out as many times as, like, they needed. Like, you know, if anything, we need a little stain on it.
Yes, it's true. The patina of a lot of the items in the prop house, you know, it's almost when you see something on First Dibs or you see something on eBay, and when it says the condition, you know, it's worn with the appropriate level of use, you know, for something that's been around for 50 years or 75 years. And again, that is also something that's so interesting. Just recently on a commercial, I used a desk from Newel that is a completely period desk. It fit the bill because it had a certain mass to it, but it was not a contemporary desk, even though the entire room was high-end contemporary. But having that piece with the incredibly beautiful wood that we had you guys shine up and then we shined it up, it just made such a statement, and it just transcended the period. You know, it just worked under those circumstances in the same way that a piece with more use becomes like the perfect character piece, you know, because you start to really understand or see that that character might have been sitting in that chair or on that sofa for 20, 30 years. So it drives the visual.
I would say that that's where styles and trends are going, even in the sales world. Like, it can be an ultra contemporary world, but like if you can have an old period desk, like an English desk, it gives the room sophistication that just giving it all contemporary can never do. And, we're seeing a big growth in our sales side this year. I think, one, because of these supply chain issues, people are not able to order and buy goods anymore. It's like, the timelines are longer, there's huge supply chain issues. So, and, people that want to buy, that want to furnish their house, they need furniture right away. And so, antiques are becoming, a valuable option for them.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. We started decorating the set from Hollywood to Your Home right as COVID started. And, we're seeing so much of that trending where heirlooms are both being sold and also purchased, and antiques are being refurbished, and people are loving that they've had these hand-me-downs. Maybe they're repainting or refinishing, and it's much better than waiting 8 months for a piece of furniture.
I always have this one scene that I think of where I think about like the future of design a little bit. Hunger Games, where they're on the train and it's completely like there's screens everywhere. Everything is like, looks so contemporary, but they're surrounded by antiques and period paintings. There's just nothing that's going to replace history like this. There's something regal about it. There's just something that oozes luxury when, you can have something gilt in just a completely technological world in a way, and in a futuristic world. And, those were our paintings that we put in there. And it was just so cool seeing something like that. And then somebody just clicked and being like, this could really work for the future. This actually is the definition of sophistication and luxury.
For both of you guys, tell me a little bit about the collaborative process. Like, Beth, do you come in saying, I'm looking for an antique desk? Or do you come in saying, like, I need a desk, Jake, here's the situation, what do you have? Do you guys work together, or do you have really specific things you're looking for and he gives them to you?
Well, I'll tell you that back in the good old days, I would always make my trip to Newel and multiple trips to set up the look for a specific show. As things started appearing on the internet, that changed how we work. The Newel Prop House website is completely user-friendly. As a matter of fact, I would say to any of our listeners, if you just want to take a trip, like the way museums are doing virtual tours, just go on the Newel website and look at all the different periods and styles of furniture that's available out there for rent. As of late, I start off calling in my wish list with specific SKU numbers, and they're checked if they're available. And, really at Newel, if they're not available, I always can find a replacement, or Jake helps me find a replacement. The staff is then prepared to do the rental agreement and set our pickup dates and do this extra special wrapping, and that's how it works. Jake and I recently worked on a project that was as close to my Reversal of Fortune days as anything I've done, and it was a special project called Rare Objects, a film directed and written by Katie Holmes that I found out about and was hired to do, and took this project straight to Jake and straight to the whole Newel family to see if we could organize it in a way that would work best for all of us. And it's been something that we've just recently completed, and it's a triumph.
When Beth brought me this opportunity, it's kind of like how it is whenever, she needs something, for any of her sets. It's just like, how can I help? How can I make this happen? And, just the way the pieces that were shown, for the film, it was a true homage to Newel, as far as just the pieces that she selected. I mean, it was all over the board, and it was all just, some of the best pieces that I know I'm going to be blown away by. And just to really kind of speak to how we work together, it's just a lot of communication. I think like whenever, we don't have something that you need, like, I always will try to figure out a way to find it for you. Exactly. And when we do have it, we really always try to be as transparent as we can with just like, what the condition is, like if there's, if there's issues, if there's, problems with it, we always try to be very transparent, but it's just a lot of fun. Every time you call, you call me up, or, if you want to, if I can help you in any way, if it's just taking, being like a tour guide, I'm always down to, to help. It's always fun when you give me a call.
For our listeners who aren't aware, a large part of Rare Objects takes place in an antique store. So, Jake, can you talk a little bit about your reaction when Beth proposed using so many items from Newel in this film?
My first reaction was, this is really cool. How can I help? I've never really had this chance to really get this close to a film before. Working with Beth and even just getting more into depth about what her whole process and vision was, and just seeing how many items she needed from Newel and the quality items that she was picking, I just knew this was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. So whatever needed to be done to make this happen, I was willing to support.
And you did incredibly. I got a call for this job, and it's so interesting because a major part of the film takes place in an antique store run by two different characters. And we actually shot in an empty store in Manhattan, downtown, and there were 3 floors of the store. So there was a lot to fill. And under different circumstances, this would have been impossible to have happened financially, but I was honored and just thrilled to be able to pitch to Newel that this set was really a love letter to Newel and its rich history, because so many of the items are featured. And just this whole concept of, a film titled Rare Objects. The film has been made into contemporary day, but it's based on a book by Kathleen Tesoro, and she came to actually have a little role in the antique store. She was a patron in the store. It's based on her novel. When she visited the set, she was fascinated and looked at all the tear sheets from Newel. And she told me, I wish I had had all of this when I was writing the original novel. So it just had so much meaning to literally provide these rare objects, and it made the set decoration for the film, that's for sure. I don't think there would have been any way I could have pulled this off without Newel. So when I was approached, I immediately said, this is Newel. So it was really a stellar experience all the way around.
It really was Newel. Just looking at the items that we brought over, we just brought over Russian pieces. We were bringing over Art Deco pieces, Hungarian pieces, period French, English bamboo, German Biedermeier, Burmese, rustic pieces, and then like Italian grotto and beautiful mid-century. There was just such a swan song, as my opinion, that you kind of, were able to deliver with just these items. And I was really fortunate to being able to go to the set, and seeing some of these pieces and just seeing just some of the things that you did. I just didn't even know could be possible, like how you were able to, use our doors, those panels, and
we used doors as set pieces. My team did an unbelievable rig, but even things that I didn't anticipate, and I have complete set decorator intense goosebumps right now when you just ran through that list of period and styles. I mean, it was such an incredible collaboration with the production designer, Michael Fitzgerald, and with Katie Holmes, who just worshipped every single piece that we got, and they all shot the hell out of it. But we even had in this store, of which, by the way, we were shooting there for over a week, and we literally had to keep people out of the store off the street. People would walk by and they were like ready to buy, and
we have like people's little faces against the glass.
Yes, exactly. We had to keep cleaning the windows because we had the most beautiful pieces in the window, and I did add some smaller items and more specific pieces of jewelry and things to it. But here we are with these exposed sockets on a wall that were going to be seen, and we ended up having these sconces from Newel that were like tree branches, incredible gold-leafed branches with crystals hanging from them, but like, Zen crystals, not like a crystal chandelier.
Like a quartz.
Quartz, right. And they literally fit on the socket as if they were custom made. And things like that kept happening. Like when we rigged the doors, it was as if they were designed for the space. And when we had this loft area, we had these 2 stone busts, which I didn't even think about this, but they were so heavy and so authentic that I actually couldn't even put them on any piece of furniture that I rented from Newel because they were so heavy. And all of a sudden my team was on a ladder and we were putting them up on this ledge as if they were like carved out of the ledge. I mean, it was absolutely stunning. So it was just a complete experience from start to finish. And the film will live on with all these beautiful, rare objects, and we'll be talking about it for a long time.
I just, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, and it kind of takes me back just seeing, how we have this giant 10-foot English, library ladder, and
that was what I call an impulse item. At the end when you're checking out of the store, you go for that impulse item. Well, the more we got into the script and how it was going to break down, there are scenes where one of the characters is hanging a light fixture in the window, and all of a sudden we, realized, wow, that ladder, that incredible piece, which is actually one of a pair, which is quintessential Newel. It's been in their publicity in the past. You see that library ladder and it just drips incredible antiques and Newel. That ended up being another character on the set. That drove the action and allowed the DP to have a place to shoot down into the room, to shoot up at it. It was perfection, absolute perfection.
That's just music to my ears, and I can go on for days with just seeing some of the these pieces, and how just using like the Italian grotto, tete-a-tete, the love seat was just...
That Italian grotto tete-a-tete was used in Reversal of Fortune. So that was my ode to Reversal of Fortune.
Wow. It was just really incredible. And it's just you're a magician, and just being able, even with having all of, Newell's resources, just being able to do that and to make everything look like really feel like it's rare objects, and be true to the film was incredible, to be a part of.
I'm going to feature a lot of these pieces on my Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, Jake, tell us about Newel and how the business has developed and how involved you and the company have gotten into social media.
Now that we have 2 different brands, and 2 different, companies with Newel Gallery, which is, Newel Antiques, which is our sales side, and then Newel Props, which is our rental side. We have 2 different social medias, but really with Newel Props, it's like we're really coming from a spot where we really want to hone in and just being appreciative to our set decorators. We love highlighting them, showcasing all the incredible works. We have a lot of people that want to, look at what we've done, and just because we have, incredible pieces and we work with incredible clients, and we want to write great stories about, incredible set decorators. And then on top of it, with Newel, we're just always, we have this, kind of the same kind of mode. It's just, it's a little bit more, towards the interior designer world. But really, at the end of the day, both brands are all just about, it's really easy when you have incredible furniture because you can kind of let that do the talking in a lot of ways,
Yeah, all the stories and photos on Instagram are just so beautiful in and of themselves, each rare object.
I wish I could take credit for the social media, but the real person is actually my sister. She's my younger sister. She actually runs the whole social media department. We obviously all work on it together, but she puts a lot of work in, and there's certain things where you're just like, you're better than me in certain areas, and this is definitely one of them. And so, my sister's really on the ground doing all of the social media dirty work, and we the whole part is just, we want to highlight our employees that we have here. We want to highlight the set decorators. We want to highlight the furniture. We're really big about the environment at Newel. We want to, spread awareness on that as well. We have a lot of different core values of our business, and I think social media is a great tool for us to kind of let people know what we're all about.
How does your father feel about all of this forward thinking?
My father's, a happy camper. I think at the end of the day, he probably wanted to retire a little bit, but, things are exciting now with Newel, and he wants to be more involved, and, I'm still learning from him every single day. He's he's an encyclopedia of antique knowledge. It's really incredible. And, some of the stories that he has told me about, just working with some of these set designers and interior designers, I wish I could just pull more and more from his brain, because, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be anywhere without him. And, I think for me, it's just however involved he wants me to be in the business is up to him, but he's just a huge part of this thing. He's always been a person that likes to be in the background a little bit more. So I think, when he made me CEO, it was, kind of just because he really wanted to be in the background and
except for when his old friends come to visit, then he comes out.
That's when, he'll be, a happy camper. It's you got to just kind of pull him out. He's, the nicest guy and, and can do his thing, but it's just, it's kind of just getting him out of his office a little bit. But
it's just the greatest family business with incredible history.
I'm incredibly fortunate, and my mom's a big part of, the business too. It's not easy running a family business and especially evolving. And, I think we're doing a really good job at it. And we have a lot of big things in store, for the future too, which, I think is, at the end of the day, it's all about inventory. That's my biggest focus. So, we just acquired this incredible collection of American mid-century furniture. We're probably going to be the number one antique American mid-century dealer, in the U.S. And
that's amazing.
And we just took over a collection of some of the best Chinese ceramics. Like I say, we really want to go after different styles and periods. Because it's just that's what the movie and entertainment industry needs. They need being eclectic. They need different styles. They need different categories, because you never know what type of set they're going to, put up. And so it's best to be prepared and make.
And I would say, I get asked this question all the time. Students of film and different interior designers and commercial designers in the industry, this is a source to learn from. I mean, just going to your website and going to your Instagram is a place where people can not only see incredibly beautiful things, but learn about different styles and periods in history. So tell us where to reach you.
Well, you can reach us at newelprops.com. My email is jbaer@newel.com if anybody wants to directly email me. But just to your point, I'm all about education. I realize that Newel is kind of practically like a museum. We really have a huge range of different eras and periods and all these types of things. And I really always, especially, if you're young and you really want to get more comfortable with antiques, I encourage people to come in and actually look at the pieces. We want to make this more approachable. I think antiques should be more approachable. I'm more concerned, about, breaking a contemporary piece, because, once a contemporary,
right.
broken, it's done. But with an antique piece, there's a level of restoration that can always be done to fix it, unless it's like a Murano chandelier.
And tell us your sister's brilliantly run Instagram.
So that's just Newel Props on Instagram, and then Newel Antiques is the sales side as well. And then mine is just Jake Baer.
You guys have been such like a loving little like interview between the two of you. My face has been smiling the entire time. But one of our big features, Jake, that we have before we let you go is that we always pull back the curtain a little bit. And Beth and you need to share a little bit of some stories here about being on set together, telling me anything about some project you guys worked on, a favorite project, something that went crazy, something that went great. And I want to know your favorite objects. Frankly, I need to know like what's your love in the shop.
Do you want to go first or should I go first?
Jake, tell us what are your top 3 styles of furniture that you're drawn to that you just adore?
That's like choosing I don't have any
child,
kids,
what pet?
but I would say my first period in style that I was really attracted to that got me into furniture was Art Nouveau. When I was working as a carpenter and working on those pieces and just seeing the curves and how the woodwork, we have this one incredible Majorelle grandfather clock. It's probably one of the best pieces that we have in our collection, and I don't know. It's just something whimsical, and it's just very romantic. So I don't know why that was when I was at my youngest, why I loved it the most. But I think there was a level of appreciation. I would definitely say rustic furniture, Black Forest. My last name is Bear, so I kind of love seeing the bears. That's always just been something that I have this beautiful little Black Forest umbrella stand, which is in my apartment, and I love it. It's one thing that I always look at. And then I really would just like to stress that I just love mixing up styles. Like it's just, there's nothing better than having like an eclectic room. So when you can, get mid-century, contemporary, and then you get like, an 18th century, French console, and then you put like a contemporary painting over it. I mean, for me, that's like where I really resonate. And it just makes so much sense to me because like you get something so contemporary and then you just bring some, it brings it weight when you can give it that classical,
It's so rich. I mean, Jake and I have never asked this question of each other until now, but it's amazing because our opinions are exactly the same. I would say Art Nouveau and Art Deco are my periods that I'm the most drawn to. And I will tell you that I never even thought of or knew or considered rustic being a style really until I saw it at Newel. I'm just thinking of the days of being at Newel pretty early in my career to work on Reversal of Fortune and marveling at how there were these, I think it was the first time that I really thought of any kind of rustic or outdoor piece being an antique. And learned a lot that day.
That was the second floor,
Yeah.
I remember running through those aisles when I was a little kid and just being like, this was definitely where I like to be. One story that it was kind of recent, but, with the parchment, dining table that you used as a desk.
Yes.
When you told me that you were using that piece as a desk, like, I know it was for like a different, of film.
Well, let's start. Let me, I'll give it just a little background and then you say what you're going to say. One of the projects that we worked on recently was a New York unit of a film that I did where the entire set that was being built all centered around what had to be a massive desk. Yet another very contemporary office, different than the one I talked about earlier. Actually, no desk was large enough, and we didn't have time to have something made. So I started to think about Newel, of course, in terms of size and scale, and ended up seeing on the website what was a dining table. And that wasn't even in the prop house. It was in the showroom. And I went to see it, and it seemed like that was our winner. And believe me, after looking at, easily over 100 options, with supply chain issues, with money not being really an issue for this particular movie that I'll tell everybody about once it's come out. Here was this incredible parchment dining table. So I called Jake.
Well, what makes me so happy about that is right before COVID, I flew to Italy, to the Parma show on a buying trip. And that was the dining table. I bought that dining table myself. And so it was just really kind of cool. Those are the ones I kind of always get extra, I always put a bigger smile on my face because, when I actually pick out the piece that I'm going to buy. And it was not easy. We had this whole parchment collection, and honestly, we ended up selling that whole parchment collection, and that was the last piece that was left. And so, the fact is the fact that you used it, and I'll send you a picture of it, for everybody to see later. But it's just such a hero piece. It's so cool, and I'm excited to see how it all turns out.
Yeah, and it's a hero piece in the shot we did.
Yeah, that's so cool.
When I pitched Rare Objects and our whole deal to Jake, and he called me back and said, I talked to my father, and my father said it's with Beth, so we're going to say yes. That is one of the great honors of my career.
It's a very hard thing to do with my father, to get that thing, but you're a part of the Newel family. Beth, I hope you know that, and we just feel tremendously lucky to be working with you for I don't know how many years, but it's just been
over 35 years,
and it really comes from my father, it comes from me, it comes from really the whole staff. We're all really tremendously lucky to work with you, and whenever you need something, we're always going to be there. So it's great to have, just this incredible relationship. It's a super big honor to be on this podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It felt like we were just having a normal conversation, but it was, but it's great, to just, have people listen to, about what Newel Props is and, how we were able to help on such a cool project in Rare Objects.
Jake, thank you so much for joining us, and listeners are going to learn so much more about this project as we talk through this and the rest of the podcast. Listeners, please head over to Newel's website and Instagram channels. We will repeat all of that at the end of this podcast, but we want to thank Jake so much again for coming on with us. You guys have made me smile the entire time. Like, I've been quiet, but I'm like grinning because you guys are adorable and I love your relationship, and I need to meet Mr. Newel. Mr. Baer, I guess, really, because he seems adorable. And I love like a tough nut to crack is like my favorite. So love that.
I'm still working on it. So.
Well, I'm about it. So I love it. Thank you so much, Jake. I hope you had lots of fun. And it is just always a conversation over here. So come back anytime you like.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to thank Jake Baer again for making the time to speak with us. I'm so excited for everyone to see Rare Objects. I'd like to thank Michael Fitzgerald, the production designer, who I had the incredible opportunity to collaborate with on Rare Objects. And I'm really proud of the work we did on this film.
I, for one, cannot wait to see it. We've been talking about it for so long. We have been with you every step of the way from when you got this job, all the way through everything you were working on it, and then all this anticipation building up for it to finally come out. And then we got to talk to Jake, and it made it so much more full and rich in my brain about what we were all going to see. I hope our listeners are getting that. For sure, you guys go check out Rare Objects. It comes out in theaters and on demand on Friday, April 14th. And for more information on the movie, head over to rareobjectsfilm.com. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Decorating the Set from Hollywood to Your Home at Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please leave a 5-star review. It helps a lot in promotion of the show. 5 stars, people. Thanks for listening.
Decorating the Set from Hollywood to Your Home is an original Pod Clubhouse production. Recorded, edited, and produced at Pod Clubhouse Studios. For more information, please visit us online at podclubhouse.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Decorating the Set at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.